Yes.
for reasons I'm not really clear on, Gene said, "Hey, let's watch Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney." And
Roger,
so
we had no movie picked. It was Thursday.
This one is all on Gene.
We shoot this on Saturdays, right? So we want to try to be consistent. So Thursday night we had nothing picked. So I was just like thumbing through IMDb. I just typed in horror movies, and that one came up. And a little bit of a Sydney Sweeney fan. She's hosted Saturday Night Live, whatever. But let's just watch that one because we had no plan. So we watched it, and yeah.
Well, and I did question him on, you're not confusing Sydney Sweeney with Samara Weaving.
No, they are completely different. Although I do have to say,
yes,
that at the end, there have been quite a few movies lately that I've watched that at the end you end up with the last girl covered in blood, and that's virtually all of Samara Weaving movies. But then at the end of this movie, we had Sydney Sweeney.
Yep, pulling a Samara Weaving.
Pulling a Samara Weaving, covered at the end, covered with blood. Yeah. And then very similar to Azrael, at the end, they're next to a baby.
Right. And so, Gene, let's get right in. Where are you at with Immaculate?
Yeah, so I started watching this movie, and actually I had high hopes. Well, actually, I take that back, because usually it seems like in horror movies, like I don't know the exact machinations that happen behind the scenes, because I'm not there making the movie, right? I'm just not there. But it seems like when big movie production studios get involved in horror, you end up with an inferior product. And at the very beginning, you're rolling, I think, big logos for what's the name?
Well, it's Neon, but I think I'm gonna stop you right there, because the only reason this movie exists at all is Sydney Sweeney. So back in 2014,
right, because Sydney Sweeney, she has credits as the producer.
Right, back in 2014, this movie was supposed to happen with Sydney Sweeney, and it didn't, and it went into development hell. And then Sydney Sweeney said, "I'm kind of a big shot now. I'm going to pull it out of there."
Because
and make
2014, Sydney Sweeney was nothing.
And so then
but now she's like pretty big.
She sells it then
Saturday Night Live
to Neon for distribution. So this is an independent film with a $9 million budget, basically. So there's not really studio.
Yeah, maybe I'm
interference
confusing this with some other movie, but anyway, Neon's pretty big. But again, when you see big studios attached to horror movies, it gives you a little bit of pause. So, because I don't know, I can just see studio executives behind the scenes saying, "Oh, change that, change this. We don't like that."
That happens a lot.
Let's put this in, and it just ruins the product. And the movie starts really well. This nun, she wants to escape. She goes through this trial to escape. She's caught, of course, buried alive. It's great beginnings. But then the movie just kind of like loses its way, because at the very beginning, you see these 4 like costume nun women who are the ones who enacted punishment on this woman who's trying to escape, right? But then you really don't see that ever again. I mean, there are little hints of it in the movie, and I think that's like fatal flaw in storytelling. Is you show something, and even you go to great lengths to show something, and then you don't really go back to it. And then also I really expect in movies, because we're all humans, right? I expect humans to act like humans. So some things happening in this movie are super implausible, kind of like a American woman from Detroit going to a convent in Italy. That's super implausible. And also other things like she's trying to escape the convent, similar to before, but some of the things she does are just really ridiculous. And my wife and I were like, what? It just doesn't make any sense.
And I do.
So I think the movie had its great promise. Props to Sydney Sweeney for producing it, making it happen. But sometimes you just see that, maybe the vision just doesn't quite match the execution, and it just comes off not quite right. And then again, the whole yeah, at the end, she ends up in these catacombs, right? And it's just like, what in the world? How did we end up here? How does this help? It's just a character not acting in a human-like manner. So, I mean, watch it if you want, but yeah.
So I think the beginning sequence that you just alluded to was actually a mistake to even include at all.
Right. Because they didn't go back to it, right?
Well, because then it just
leads a false expectation.
It's set up immediately that there's shenanigans going on at this convent, and I would have preferred it to just be, here's Sydney Sweeney showing up at the convent, because I was okay with the story, right? My convent was shutting down because there was not enough attendance at the church and all this stuff, and so I'm reaching out trying to find a place to go. These guys reached out to me, which we understand later in the film why they did that. And so I'm okay with that, but to me it's like...
Yeah, it seems unlikely.
To me it was just, you set up this... Well, we already know there's something wrong at this convent now because we've seen this beginning sequence, and I would have much rather had it be she's discovering all of this stuff.
Like a discovery as you go through it. Sure. Although, is there really any convent? I've never really hung out in convents before.
Well, and that's great because,
but
of course...
Roger, I'm so glad you brought these movies. Can you introduce to us?
There is, of course, and Gene is probably not aware of this because Gene's a generally good, responsible guy. But there was in the 70s...
Pay my taxes,
70s, there was this whole nunsploitation genre of films coming out. Where it was nuns up to no good, right?
Yeah, and anyway, you got to throw it out there. I think we talked about this before. That whole topic of religion is just pregnant and just rife for horror, because the whole religion thing is just... Well, I say this, and do I go to church? Yes, I go to church. For a long time anyway. I call myself Christian. I pray, all that. I think I know my Bible actually fairly well, but it's just the imagery, the whole
ceremonies,
the ceremonies, just the things you go to, and just the whole foundational aspects of Christianity, or really any religion, are just ripe for horror movies. And of course the religious history often is horror in real life. I mean, just look at the Crusades. Oh my gosh, or even... Yeah, we don't need to.
Well, and I just brought a couple examples. There's The Other Hell, the sinful nuns of St. Valentine.
Look at this cover here.
And then, of course, the back. Flavia the Heretic. So
see, her eye is on fire.
So you've got a whole genre. And so that was the thing, Gene, for me.
Oh my gosh, the sinful nuns.
When this movie was happening, I'm like, oh wow, this is a 2024 nunsploitation
version of
movie.
This. And,
right.
And it's just... And it's just like, why? But horror, I'm just going to say it. Oftentimes horror involves a little bit of soft porn, and it doesn't need to be that way, but somehow I think it got in people's mind it has to be. So like in this movie, there's this scene where the nuns are taking this bath together and they're wearing these like cotton, I don't even know what you call them. Of course they get wet, and then you can just see right through them. And it's like, why is this scene even in there?
Well, but for a whole bunch of that, you can watch The Sinful Nuns of St. Valentine.
And it's like, back to this stuff. It's like, that had no place in the movie. It didn't advance the plot. And then look at this thing. Flavia the Heretic. Oh my gosh.
But amazingly,
look at this cover.
Amazingly
Can
enough,
you see that? I don't know.
It's I don't hate this movie.
I don't hate it either, but is it would I recommend? Would I ever watch it again? No.
So this movie is one of these horror movies where the runtime is really only about 86 minutes long.
Yeah,
so
it's right in your wheelhouse.
It does its thing, and it says, "Okay, we're done now."
But it could have been like 60 minutes, cutting that whole beginning sequence out.
It's completely insane as far as what's happening in this convent, which I just loved.
Things just happen for no reason. Like they have a vow of a vow of poverty, right? But then all of a sudden, the main character, Sydney Sweeney, I forget her name, but whatever. She throws up. Of course, everyone knows what's happening. Right. So they wheel in all this expensive medical equipment. And I was like, what? I thought there was a vow of, They do this huge ultrasound. So why are you giving nuns ultrasounds? And then, lo and behold, she's pregnant. So they're like, oh, I didn't. Did you have sex? And no, I didn't. I'm good. Yeah, so
right.
And then we find out that there's these
sinister plots.
There's a plot. Yeah, these bad. What do you even call them? Guys who work at.
Well, my mind,
the head guys, whatever. They have this secret DNA lab, and they're trying to resurrect Jesus.
They're
himself.
Creating an immaculate conception kind of situation, which is, my mind went straight to Dieter Lasser from Human Centipede. Oh, here's another insane doctor who's just so happy with himself that he can do this random thing. And so
that's quite the imagery you're pulling up there, Roger.
But I just think the sets in here, this is all filmed on locations in Italy. So the big church that they're in, the convent and all that, it's really nice looking.
I would have to say I totally echo that. The cinematography of this movie and the sets are just out of this world. If you just want to look at this movie just for its setting, it's probably a lot better than this movie.
Well, yeah, no, these are low budget exploitation kind of things. But I do think, though, that there's a lot of good in this movie.
It's actually really good.
There's some sequences in here that are generally frightening. I'm referring to the one scene where she's in bed and there's that shape there. That's a good scene.
Yeah, some more of that. Yes,
this movie,
I agree.
This movie could also be called Jump Scares the Movie because there's a lot of them. But the one of them is really, really good. And that was the one where she's doing the confessional, and then the priest appears to be going away, into the darkness and stuff. Right. That's a really good jump scare there.
That wasn't bad.
Yeah. But I do think the movie is just kind of insane. It doesn't really know where it's going, and when it gets there, it's completely bonkers.
Yeah, I just kind of see studio meddling because I don't know. Maybe I got to call Sydney Sweeney and ask her, but we got to have some star on our show.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll just give Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, let's just give her a call and just say, hey, when you put this thing together, did the studio's executives just really mess it up for you?
Right.
Because you can just kind of see metal.
Well, but I don't think there was really. I mean, we could do research and see if there's a longer version of this movie or what the initial assembly cut of this movie was, but I think it's right in where it needs to be as far as 86, 89 minutes, because what more do we need? I also enjoy the fact that, and this is universal in any sort of nuns being evil movie,
yeah,
so much smoking going on. So I just love that everyone's lighting up cigarettes.
They're all lighting up cigarettes. The nuns are smoking. No, they would not say that.
I'm just appalled. These nuns are smoking.
Yeah, and the priests, they smoke. Yeah, they're all smoking. Yeah, vows of poverty, chastity, obedience, and they're just lighting it up.
Yeah. And there's some significant, unexpected gore that happens in this film, too, specifically the woman who jumps off that building. They turn her body over so you can see her face.
Her mangled face,
and that was like, whoa, that's kind of out of the ordinary, but then it fits right in with, we're doing a Nunsploitation movie here.
Yeah, I talked to my wife. We were watching this together. She's turning into a little bit of a horror movie fan.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, so I talked to her about the Flying Nun, Sally Fields, and she had never seen it. So
well, good for her, actually.
I remember I was a kid. It kind of dates me, of course. I was a kid. I actually liked that show, but it was
because you were a kid.
Yeah, I watched because I was a kid. Of course, it's silly, the whole thing.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It just made me think of it. And then I just have to tell, it's like when I was growing up. I grew up in North Denver, and there was this convent called Loretto Heights, and it was like the biggest, most beautiful building on this huge campus. You go to look like a college campus. Of course it's no longer there. I could see the nuns can't make the property tax payments anymore. So it's all like,
now that's an indictment on our culture, right?
Well, yeah,
we're shutting down your convent because you can't pay the property taxes, nuns.
Well, it's not there anymore. It was a beautiful building, beautiful campus, and it's not there anymore. And in its place is, well, to give the developers credit, some really nice condo developments, Panera Bread, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's modern America. But I just ran into an article like Denver Post, because for this show I looked up Loretto Heights, and Is it the whole thing with like convents is like horror-like? Because this article is like dated 2022. Is that the city of Denver had to move like 62 coffins and burial sites of nuns that had been buried on the Loretto Heights campus for the redevelopment, because you're not going to, or maybe you do, you build your condos on top of the grave sites.
We learned from Poltergeist that that's a bad idea.
That's a bad idea. Yeah. So the city of Denver, they moved these 62 graves of these nuns that had died on this campus. So give credit to Denver. So they're not doing a Poltergeist.
Right.
Yeah. So, but the whole thing of nuns and convents, it's this ripe for it.
Well, and this movie talks about that too, where there's younger nuns coming in and taking their vows or whatever that is, basically to care for these aging nuns who are basically sent there to live out the
in a way, like
days.
this convent is really, its purpose is to, in a way, like a hospice for nuns, because they go there and they're old and they walk around and they're kind of a little crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, they're losing their minds, and so they need to be taken care of, and so the young ones take care of them.
Yeah. But overall, this movie's pretty light. To me, this is a movie that, hey, nothing else is on. I'm in the mood for a little bit of creepy, scary movie. I don't want to spend a lot of time. Hit play on Immaculate. Okay, great, it's done. Now I can go make dinner or whatever.
I think if you have Hulu, it's just available on Hulu. So I mean, watch it.
There's nothing earth-shattering here. If you are a fan of Nunsploitation films from back in the 70s, that's immediately where my mind went, was, oh wow, they have updated the Nunsploitation genre.
I don't know, of these three, which one would I watch?
You would watch none of them, Gene.
Maybe this one has the most scariest cover.
Maybe The Other Hell is one. I mean, Sinful Nuns of St. Valentine.
We know what's
from the cover. There. You already know how they're being sinful.
Yes, exactly.
So, Gene, do we have any plan for next week?
Yeah, I was telling you earlier, but my family and I were out to dinner last night, and for some reason, my kid, my 17-year-old, is really into video games. Well, he's a kid, and so he's played Silent Hill, and there's a movie, Silent Hill. So we got home from the restaurant, bought it again, $3.99 rental or whatever, and I watched Silent Hill. So why don't we do Silent Hill next week?
Okay, we will do Silent Hill next week.
Because it kind of goes along with this genre of like religious horror.
Okay. All right.
Maybe we'll do Silent Hill.
All right. Well,
which has spawned many sequels.
There's a 3D one.
A 3D version, yes, you said. And of course there's the video game, which my son says came first.
Oh, yeah. Way first.
Really?
Yeah,
it did. Okay.
No, Silent Hill is, I think, PlayStation 1.
Really?
Yeah.
We're going way back.
I think so. So then the movie came along eventually, and then there was the sequel, which was 3D. Yeah,
but talking again about like the final girl covered in blood, Silent Hill. But again, it's Rada Mitchell, yeah.
Well, but I'm giving all credit to Samara Weaving.
Oh, yeah.
Every movie she's in, I need to see her covered in blood. And apparently she needs that too.
Yes, exactly, because it keeps happening.
Right. All right, we will be back next week, probably with Silent Hill. If not, it will be something. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.